Hello. The reading in the Divine Code for July 2nd, pages 49 and 50. This command of knowing and recognizing the existence of God includes the acceptance of his kingship and his constant authority. This means that each Gentile is obligated to accept upon himself all things which he is commanded by God. That is, this recognition and the 7 Noahide commands and all their details as transmitted in the Torah. Because God, the master of the universe, commanded them and informed us, that is the Jewish people, of them in the Torah through the prophecy of Moses, our teacher. So that the non-Jew who accepts the authority of God, or he accepts the existence of God, he recognizes the existence of God and makes it a knowing recognition. By definition, in order for him to be doing that, he is recognizing the kingship of God. Because there's no way to recognize the true existence of God, the true essence of God as existing without understanding that that includes the kingship. And it includes the kingship means that the person is following that kingship. There's no way to say that he recognizes God unless he's accepting the kingship of God. Any Gentile who accepts these 7 Noahide commandments and is careful to observe them is truly a pious individual of the nations of the world and merits an eternal portion in the future world to come. And with this merit, the person will be included in the resurrection of the dead. This applies only if he accepts them and does them because the Holy One, blessed be he, commanded them in the Torah and made it known through Moses, our teacher, that the children of Noah were previously commanded to fulfill them. And this is explained in the Rambam, Laws of Kings 8:11. This person who accepts the 7 Noahide commandments because they're given in the Torah, because he accepts them because they're giving in the Torah, that confers a status on him that has with that it has the connection with the resurrection of the dead. And that's assuming he's doing it because he is following the Torah as it applies to him. This can be seen from Rashi and Tosafot on Tractate Rosh Hashanah 16b to 17a, where they state that the Talmud's words beginning, "There are 3 groups for the day of judgment," refers to the resurrection of the dead. This the Talmud speaks in reference to Gentiles as well as to Jews. So it is apparent that Gentiles can have not only a part in the future world to come, but also in the resurrection of the dead. Ra'avad and Ramban, and teachings of Hasidic leaders as well, are of the opinion that the main eternal reward and revelation of godliness in the future will be in the physical world after the resurrection of the dead. So there's different aspects of what we might call the afterlife. After we live in this world, there is the existence, there's a spiritual, what happens to the person after death, the spiritual person, and then the time of judgment, and then the future world to come with the resurrection of the dead, which is further out when the person, his soul is reunited with the body and exists in the world, similar to how the world, the soul exists in the world today. So this is available to non-Jews as well as to Jews. However, if he fulfills the commandments of the Noahide code only out of intellectual conviction, because his logic dictates them, he is forbidden by Torah law to settle in the land of Israel, and he is not counted among the pious individuals of the nations of the world. So similar to the concept of the world to come, there's parallels also with the living in the land of Israel. There's similarities there. And a person that, when Israel is in control of their own land, but when I say Israel, I mean Torah, is in control of the land of Israel, then the rules are that a person, in order for a non-Jew to live there, he has to accept the Torah that applies to him. He has to be part of the system. Footnote 11 on this page. According to Rambam's Laws of the Worship of Stars and Idols, 10.6, during the temporary dispersa of the Jewish people, during which the Jubilee cycle is suspended, no one can be accepted into the legal status of a Gentile resident, Ger Toshav in Hebrew, of the land of Israel. This means that we cannot confer upon a Gentile the legal status of Ger Toshav, even if he makes a declaration before 3 Torah-observant adult Jewish males that he accepts and abides by the Torah code. However, the title Ger Toshav alternatively refers to any Gentile in any location who keeps the 7 Noahide commandments because they are commanded to Moses in the Torah. So there's this term Ger Toshav. It's a Talmudic term. It's alluded to in the Bible, and it's a legal term primarily for the purpose of determining who is allowed to live and the rules for who is allowed to live in the land of Israel. There's also a spiritual status. There's also a spiritual aspect to the Ger Toshav status that can apply today, but the halachic implications of it are different from the time of when there's a Yovel year. When the Yovel year is connected to the agricultural cycle in Israel. It's also connected to the existence of the court system in Israel and the Holy Temple. But today there is an aspect of the Ger Toshav status that does exist. For any Gentiles who are not yet on this spiritual level, the Jews are commanded to expel them from the holy land of Israel, and they are forbidden by Torah law to dwell there, whether they are expelled or not. See Ibn Ezra on Leviticus 18, verses 18 and 26, and Deuteronomy 31:16, who explains the simple meaning in Leviticus, which says that the holiness of the land of Israel cannot tolerate sinful inhabitants, and it disgorges them. From this is understood that the spiritual standard of any inhabitants of the land of Israel, including Gentiles, must be on a higher level compared with those who live elsewhere. And concerning non-Jews who intellectually are following the Noahide code, but they're not doing it for the purpose of the Torah, but they're doing it for the purpose of their own intellect. Footnote 13, he lacks the spiritual merit, but since he fulfills the Noahide code in practice, he is not liable to any punishment for this lack of belief. So a person that is following the Noahide law because it makes sense to do so, that's from a court perspective, from a Noahide court perspective, that would be acceptable. Although ideally he should be doing it because it's in the Torah. Deniers and deviators from the foundation of faith. One who believes there is another God denies the basic foundation of faith, for knowledge of the existence, truth, and oneness of the Master of the universe is a foundation upon which all else depends. Rambam, The Laws of Foundations of the Torah, 1:6. Rambam clearly gives his opinion here, but in other places, that one is a deviant believer and an idol worshiper, if he believes that there is an independent power that is secondary to God. Other opinions hold that this incorrect belief is not forbidden to Gentiles. See the discussion later in the book, part 2, chapter 1. Yet one who believes this is not of the highest of the nations of the world, and he should be informed of this error. If there is a possibility that he will correct his belief and keep the prohibition against idolatry to its fullest in thought as well as action. So the question of believing in intermediaries, that Hashem would, in this understanding, Hashem is understood to be the God of gods. So that Hashem is the big God, and then there's all these little gods who are subservient to him. That's considered a mistaken belief. It's allowed to some extent, as long as the person is not worshiping these other deities. It's understood as a mistake. The person is not similar to the person that follows the Noahide laws out of intellectual conviction. The person is not punished, but ideally the person will go beyond and realize the truth that there's only Hashem, and that every other power is simply an expression or an attribute of Hashem. And that's the goal. Thank you.